This is Susan Bradley for CSO Online. Today I'm going to talk about a report that recently came out talking about 2021 Threat Detection Report. It was put out by a group called Red Canary, and you can sign up for the report and also watch the video that was done at the same time. And in particular, what struck me about this top 10 techniques was how many techniques did what's called living off the land. So there's a technique called living off the land, meaning that the attackers don't bring anything new in to attack you. They use the existing tools and techniques and software that you already have on your machine. So for example, the number one threat, 24% of total threats, used command and scripting interpreter languages, meaning it's using PowerShell that's already installed on your system. So how do you detect for this? You want to look for suspicious commandlets or any other commands that you don't normally do. One of my takeaways from this report was you want to make sure you have a really good idea of what's going on and what's normal in your system. So you want to install something called Sysmon if you haven't already. That's an event logger that specifically looks for attack sequences. And then you want to build a baseline of what is your normal scripts, what's your normal tools, what are your normal events. And when things start to look unusual, you want to take the time to investigate. Number two, 19% of threats came from signed binary process executions. Run DNL 32. Again, it's another living off the land attack sequence, not bringing outside tools into the organization. Again, you'll want to look to set alerts for malicious use of Run DLL 32, but you'll have to establish a baseline in your organization. What is normal? 16% of threats came from create and modify system processes. This one you want to review event logs for event 4697, 7045, and 4688. Again, know yourself. Know what your organization does and what those event logs normally have. 16% of threats came from scheduled tasks or jobs. Attackers often use scheduled tasks in order to introduce persistence. The Red Canary report indicated that you should review when a scheduled task is set to run a system, as this is the most typical attack configuration they saw. Again, you want to look for event 106 or 140 to record when a new task is created or updated. 7% of threats came from credential dumping. The Local Security Subsystem Service, or LSAS, is often used to dump passwords with a little help from such tools as ProcDump and Mimikatz. Again, the Sysmon process access alerts are your best toolkit to help you identify this. Make sure you look for event 10 in the Sysmon events. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. You're going to want to know the baseline in your organization, because once you know the baseline, then you can identify what's unusual. 7% came from process injection. And attackers use a variety of injection methodologies to gain more access into your system. And again, you'll want to use Sysmon to help you alert you when these things occurred. 6% of threats came from files or information, and what an attacker does is they'll use base64 code encoding to hide their attack processes. So make sure that you set policies for using PowerShell and only use signed script execution. 5% of threats came in from ingress tool transfer. Now, while most of the time the attackers use living off the land, meaning PowerShell, things that are already on the system, attackers often use BitsAdmin, our Windows Update friendly platform tool, to import in tools. So if you see Bits or BitsAdmin running when it shouldn't, this is a sign often that an attacker is using something to import an attack tool into your system. Number 9, 4% of threats came from system services. Often attackers use Windows Service Manager to run commands or install services. Sysmon event number 7 can be monitored for attack sequences. And last but not least, on their top 10, 4% of threats came from masquerading, meaning that the attacker renames system utilities, they name a file close to something that's already on the system, so they pretend to be something they're not. I'll urge you to take the time to watch the presentation. It's an excellent guide on what is being seen in 2021. And of course, you want to make sure that you take the time to install Sysmon. There's several GitHub alerting techniques out there. Take the time to understand and look at it. Take the time to review the Australian government documentation on Windows event logging and forwarding, because you want to make sure you keep logs, and you want to make sure you keep them off-site, off into another hard drive, someplace where the attacker can't clear the logs. Because one of the things they'll want to do is clear those log files out so that you can't come back afterwards and go, what happened? So, if you haven't gotten one thing out of this, make sure you install Sysmon. Make sure you turn on logging. Make sure you have someplace outside of your organization, outside of the normal event processes, that you're logging and forwarding those event logs. Attackers are getting smarter. We need to get smarter as well. As always, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at the IDG Tech Talk. Until next time, this is Susan Bradley for CSO Online.